Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Portishead Town Council full council meeting, Wednesday, the 13th of March. We have got quite a busy agenda to get through, so I know we've got a few people here talking from Citizens Advice and the Youth Centre, and from the bus group as well. We will ask you if you can sort of keep those quite succinct and on target. We'll keep an eye on the time for you. But anyway, we will move on. We will start with agenda item 1, the chairman's welcome, fire safety and exiting the building. We are not expecting any fire alarm tests this evening, so if the alarms do go off, it is a genuine alarm, and so we ask everybody to make their way quickly, but no rushing, no pushing and shoving, across to the assembly point, which is in the car park opposite. Wendy, the clerk, will act as sort of fire marshal to make sure that everybody is out, etc. And recording of the meetings. We have got a question in from one of the residents around recording of meetings, and so residents are free to record the meeting if they so wish, so as to share that with people who can't be here, either as the meeting's going on or later. Okay. Agenda item 2, apologies for absence. We have received 4 apologies. We've got Councillor Ben Aldridge, Councillor Janet Davey, Councillor Carol Preston and Councillor Martin Dowling. They have all sent in their apologies. Ben Aldridge is the chair, and myself as vice chair, so I've sort of stepped into the chair seat, so please bear with me. And obviously that left a vacant position sat next to me, so I've asked Councillor Alan George if he would sit in, just to keep an eye on when people are putting their hands up, wanting to speak in public participation, etc. If I'm dealing with somebody who's up at the lectern speaking, somebody puts a hand up, he can keep an eye on that to make sure that everybody gets their turn. Okay. So if we can go out, if we can have a proposer to accept those apologies from Councillor Ben Aldridge, Councillor Janet Davey, Councillor Carol Preston and Councillor Martin Dowling. Emma, thank you. Somebody to second that. I think David put his hand up. And if we can have a vote on everybody accepting those, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3, which is a declaration of councillors' interests and requests for dispensation, to declare any interest relating to the business of the meeting and to receive any dispensation requests from the clerk in accordance with Localism Act 2011 S29-34. So I will just work my way around the table. So, Bob?
Yeah, I knew you picked me. Okay. I've got a declaration on item 12, which is for the bus community group. Now being the vice chair for that group, I won't be voting.
Okay, thank you. Emma?
No, none that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Jenny? David?
None that I'm aware of.
Mike?
None that I'm aware of.
Roger?
None that I'm aware of.
John?
None that I'm aware of.
Alan?
None that I'm aware of.
And none that I'm aware of. Bob, just back to your point on the bus service, agenda item 12. I'm going to move that to a little earlier in the agenda list, so it'll come in after agenda item 8. That's okay. We will move it.
Yeah, that's not a problem. We have a representative from the group.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tim Sneddon. Tim, if we can just check whether you have any declarations of interest or requests for dispensation. Okay, thank you. Okay, Chairman's update report. I'm going to keep this one really brief. The idea today for the Chairman's update, obviously Ben's not here, so I was just going to give you a brief update on a couple of meetings that I've attended, and if any of the other councillors wish to point out any sort of community-based group meetings that they've attended recently, by all means, put your hand up and you can give that as part of the Chairman's update. I have been meeting with a couple of various community groups over work that's going on in and around Slade Road play area, and also with the Marina, Bristol Channel Yachting Association, Hall and Woodhouse, around a soon to hopefully happen shanty festival. Also a couple of meetings I've had with the allotments associations. Any of other councillors want to mention? Mike?
I attended about 3 or 4 weeks ago a cycle forum, North Somerset Council cycle forum down in the town hall in Weston-super-Mare, which was interesting. The main issue discussed was the ongoing saga over the Tutshill sluice and the opening of the cycleway through from Clevedon to Weston-super-Mare, the peer-to-peer. I think I'm right in saying that they're hoping that it'll be open during the summer months. They've gone to quite considerable expense to put a new bridge in, but that's all being done. And so everyone on 2 wheels looks forward to seeing it open. Locally, in Portishead, I made a couple of comments, one related to the west side of the marina, which personally I find the field is a little bit narrow in places for both pedestrians and cyclists, and that cyclists should perhaps use the east side as the preferred route. And secondly, I'd very much like, and I know I've been going on about this for a number of years, to see Sheepway reduced to 30 miles an hour and not 40, which I think is more conducive to cyclists, equestrian uses and walkers. Okay.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else? Okay, well, we'll move on to agenda item 5, public participation to meeting agenda items. Now, small apology here. We had agreed to make a slight amendment to this particular agenda item to open it up to be a little broader, to remove the requirement for it to be items on the agenda, just to allow the public to come in and talk about items that are important to them. And apologies from myself, I missed the fact that hadn't been taken out of the agenda item heading, as well as the text below. So we will move on with public participation to receive from members of the public any statements or questions relevant to what is said, to which any answer will be given, or if necessary, a written reply to follow. Are there any residents here who would like to stand up? Yeah, Raina? And Raina, if I could ask, yeah, there's the button to push on the microphone. If you could just clearly state your name, and also if you could let us know whether or not you're happy to be filmed, if you're happy to be on video, just so as if anybody is videoing in the room, they're aware that you either are happy to be or you wish not.
It's rain and night, and I'm quite happy if anyone wants to video the whole proceedings, that's up to them. What I'm concerned with is that by the end of this year, our high street, which already does not have a post office and no likelihood of one, will also have one bank, and that's doubtful whether that will stay. We won't have a pharmacist. We have very few what I call retail outlets in the high street. I'd like to know from the council what your plans to rejuvenate the high street, and I mean rejuvenate it, not just sort of pay lip service, and try and see what we can do to bring back the high street as a high street, not just as a coffee shop. Thank you.
Thank you, Rena. There was an awful lot in there, which we can't, obviously, I'm not going to attempt to answer now. I know there are various ideas that have been put forward around the post office. As a town council, we have very limited control over the use of the retail outlets. We do an awful lot as a town council to bring interest into Portishead with things like the Christmas lights and lots of events that get lots of people in, hopefully coming into the high street and spending money. So hopefully we will see businesses see that as a good potential, but ultimately it's down to those individuals then negotiating to take on a unit. Yeah, by all means. But we will take that away, and we will come back to you.
I do think we've got to make a decided effort. Yeah.
It is on. Yeah.
It is on, because it's easier to say it's not our responsibility. The lights and other things have been going on for years, so they've always been there. We actually need some sort of incentive to bring people who want to be in the high street. If the few shops we've got now close, it's a dead end. And really and truly, that's not good. I mean, somehow or other, we're the second largest town in North Somerset, but the banks seem to think that Clevedon's larger. So the banks remain open in Clevedon and they have a post office, but we are second best for some reason.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Rena. Mike, you wanted to comment?
Well, only just to say that, Rena, you should be also addressing this to Bristol City Council, because we all know that their rents are diabolical. They're the ones pricing people out.
Okay, thank you. Any other member of the public wishing to speak? Ken? Again, Ken, if you can just.
First of all, I don't like being addressed as a resident in the minutes. I've got a name, and you all know what it is, Kenneth Smith. I would prefer that to be resident 1 or 2 or 3. What residents am I? I can't remember now. I think that's a negative way of doing things. I'm not ashamed of my name. I'm not ashamed about what I say. If you don't like what I say, you don't have to listen. But to use the term resident in a forum like this, I've got a name, why not use it? I got my council tax today, like most of us, and I've been reading these minutes. Can somebody explain to me why we have to pay, what's the figure? Is it 5,000, something like, to North Somerset to employ a bloke to track people who are illegally parked? Do we have to pay for a person like that? How has that come about? Can someone explain it to me? Because I'm simple. Why are we paying North Somerset to get a person here to do the parking? I know the police no longer do it, but why? Why do we have to pay North Somerset? Is there a reason for it?
I might be able to help a little bit with this, Ken, which is originally, as you probably remember, having lived here for some time, that we had a traffic warden in the town
We did.
who used to go around chatting to people and saying,
Absolutely.
off
Yeah,
you
we
go,
did.
don't do it again,
We
which
did.
worked really well. But unfortunately now, the government has specified that you have civil enforcement officers because the police have moved away from the civil side of things. They're supposed to be dealing with the law and order issues, but that's another bone of contention. Civil enforcement can deal with dogs, parking, antisocial behaviour, all that sort of stuff. That's what the civil enforcement officers are there for. So it's not only parking as well.
Yeah, but where is it laid down that it's the parish council's responsibility to pay for it? That's all I want to know. Where is it laid down that parish councils have to pay for this person?
To allow us to get access to a civil enforcement officer to come round and keep the high street in a relatively good position from parking, stop people parking on pavements and on double yellows. That was the route we had to go down. We are in the process of looking into that with North Somerset at the moment to make sure that we do get. good
North
value.
Somerset's will be rubbing their hands, you know, that's another thing they've uploaded to us. You know, we're parish council.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that we get value for money.
Just as a side, because people in this room have been here a lot longer than me. I've only been here since '86, but you know that special bit that Portishead has to pay on the council tours. What's that for? I don't mean the precept. I mean there's another bit, especially for Portishead. What's that for?
Do you mean the levy?
No, I don't mean the precept. There is a separate thing, something to do with something Portishead have done in the past. What is it?
I think Roger can
Yeah,
probably.
so I think this appears on your bill as Bullieshead special expenses. Is that the one that you're on about?
Something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I've asked questions about this down at North Somerset.
I mean, it's been on my bill ever
It's-
since I've been in Portishead since '86. So what is it?
So it's I believe it's where North Somerset pick up expenses that should normally fall to the town or parish council. So Weston-super-Mare used to have one, but Weston-super-Mare have taken those back in-house now. So I believe they no longer have one on their council tax bill. I don't think Clevedon have one because I think Clevedon have most of their stuff dealt with in-house. But there are certain things which fall to North Somerset to do, which normally fall to other town and parish councils. And that's my understanding of it. But as I say, I've only asked a couple of questions about it because no one's really delved into that one. If you want me to go further, I will check and see if I can get a list if you want. Well, then that's fine. Maybe just liaise with Annette after.
I will
and
submit
she
it.
she can answer that one
Ever
for
since
you.
I've been there, I've been paying it. So what I've been paying, you know, can I have my money back? You know.
We will make a note of the query and we will come back to you with a full answer on that.
I believe I've got a new councillor who represents me in Westworth. And these minutes are incorrect. You had a special meeting. The lady concerned said she was totally and utterly independent. It seems that this isn't true. She's a member of the Portishead Independent Party, which is not independent. They're a political party. And that should be, these minutes should reflect that. Somebody who's saying she's totally under independent is not true. Portishead Independent Party is a registered party. In fact, I think the lady's in here tonight somewhere. So can we have the minutes altered, please, so it reflects
I think,
exactly what the situation is?
Ken, the minutes are a reflection of that meeting at that moment in time, and I believe,
Well, they're not accurate.
and I will ask Jenny to answer your question. At that moment in time, they were accurate. Jenny, would you like to?
Well, have you changed? Have you changed from being independent to
I'm,
a Portishead Independent Party? What are you?
I'm very happy to answer your
Well,
question.
answer.
And I'm very glad you've asked it.
when I was last sat here 2 months ago, I had just been elected, and at that point in time, I was absolutely standing on an independent ticket, if you like. I did not understand
There's
what
nothing
the
to
Portishead
understand.
Independents were a group of people.
No, they're not. They're
I
a
thought
political
that-
party.
I know, and I'm just saying I was not aware that they were a political party.
Well, are you an
And
independent?
since so the minutes actually are absolutely correct at that
No, they're
particular
not.
point. They're correct because at that point in time they recorded exactly what I said, and at that point in time I was an independent.
So you've
Stop
had your
the
arms, you've had your
I
arms
didn't
twisted.
have my
Now you're a
arms-
Portishead
No,
independent.
nobody's
Is that
twisted
right?
my arm. I see through my own eyes and not through the eyes of others. And actually, unless I want to find out what the Portishead Independence Group stand for, the best way for doing that is actually to attend some of their meetings. So I have joined the Portishead Independence.
Well,
There's another reason why I joined. I didn't understand.
So they have
the
special
me-
meetings outside the town council meeting, do they? These Portishead independents.
We do talk to each other. I've met up once since.
So what do you think of them then? You've met up with them once. What do you
I
reckon?
thought I will say that I thought they were they appeared to be an honest and open group of people.
Thank you, Jenny. Ken, the minutes are an accurate account of that period on the day the meeting was held. Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll leave it at that. Obviously, I've made my point, and
Thank you, Ken.
that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Yep, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. I did send you a quick email to Ben. Maybe you could just clarify the points on that at some stage. But can I just clarify, going back to the extraordinary meeting? When you said, Jenny, you were independent, you were asked quite categorically, and you quite categorically said, I am an independent. And you gave the impression that you were going to be an independent. At what moment in time did you suddenly see the light and think, I need to join these independents, when you said you were independent? How long after? Just give us a clue. It was less than a month.
Jenny, sorry. Paul, Ken's asked this question. Yeah.
He hasn't got an answer.
Well, his question was that the minutes were wrong.
I accept the minutes are correct.
The minutes are correct.
That's what was said.
And-
It's just this moment in time afterwards. You know, it's just suddenly the light's there. I need to follow this light.
No, I think Jenny has already answered that following that meeting, and at that meeting, Jenny wasn't aware as to what Portishead Independents were, stood for, etc., and has subsequently made a decision following on from that meeting. So I think that she has answered.
Paul, I won't go on, but I think either Jenny misled the councillors, or I think the councillors knew that they were going to be misled.
I think in fairness, Paul, when I first joined the council 18 months ago, I had the similar problem to Jenny, and I wasn't sure what the Portishead independence was.
Sorry, Alan, I can't accept that. You stood as a Portishead independent in
Yeah.
your election campaign.
Yeah.
Jenny stood as an independent. She stood just there where Mr. Whitfield is now, and she said, I am independent. I am independent. I'm a member of no political party.
It may be a play on words, but we're all independents.
No, you're not.
None of us.
No, you're not. You're all a member of a political party.
Okay.
And if you know, any one of you are quite entitled, I assume, to leave your Portishead Independent Party and join the Conservatives or the Labour. But
Yeah.
certainly, if I was a councillor and Jenny had said that to me, I would have been very, very disappointed.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ryan. Any other members of the public? We do have, as Mr. Maltby pointed out, we do have a couple of questions that came in via email. We have somebody online as well. Oh, 2 people online. Let me just check if anybody online would like to say anything as part of public participation.
No, not me, thank you.
Thank you, Gareth. Laura?
No, just listening. Thank you.
Annette?
Good evening all, and good evening to the public. I wish this was over to the side so that we didn't have our backs to the public really, but because you used to have it like that, it would be nice to, but I think it's better than what you had before 2 months ago, because the public online need to see you councillors really, don't they? With regard to the minutes from the last meeting, can I just remind this town council that in March 2022, under this administration, an astounding oversight was made by the chairman of Portishead Town Council and the clerk could exclude residents' names from minutes with specific reference to public participation. Astounding because the very people in the town's council's controlling party, the Portishead Independent Political Party, were the very same people who supported residents prior to 2019, who were campaigning to get the public's names reinstated in minutes. Residents succeeded prior to 2019 and again in 2022. Having reminded the Town Council of this in writing and at the next meeting after March 2022, the mistake was acknowledged and the names were reinstated. Yet here we are again with the full council minutes from January 2024 with not residents on the minutes, as people have already highlighted. So I won't labour that. But it's really important because how can a council be open, transparent and honest when residents cannot check what has been said and by who? And you can't check whether something you've said is correct if you haven't got your name in the minutes because you don't know which ones relate to you, especially if the minutes are quite summarised. So please reinstate them on documentation. I can see there's a bit of inconsistency. Some have got them on, some haven't got them on. But these minutes are viewed online by public who don't attend these meetings, and it's important that they're there. And it may, of course, been another oversight, but it shouldn't really happen. Now, public participation has changed many times in Portishead Town Council under the pre-2019 administration and post-2019 under the current political party's control. But please, can I remind you, as we've reminded people in the past, that you do not represent yourselves. You represent the people of this town, the electorate of Portishead. Public participation is important, and I can recall your political party telling our town that would be better engagement with the residents and the public, that the public could then contribute to decision making. They would actively take part in meetings in groups. I believe it was weirdly called the flat pack democracy. There are some here tonight who had advocated and promoted that process, but it never happened. Now, you're all members of that same party, despite one of you having been co-opted on as an independent. And in fact, I think the wording was, and I must add this, you actually said that you weren't affiliated to any political party, were your words, but after one meeting separately, you've changed your mind, which is very bizarre, but I'm not going to labour on that. But you now have a public participation working party. And I would just like to know, because I can't find anything online, why was it formed and what was the objective of the working party? How are you choosing the members of that party? And is it open to everybody in the town, especially the ones who can't come along to the meetings for various reasons, specifically those that perhaps can't make it because they're not able-bodied or there's other reasons why they can't attend. Interestingly enough, the Community Matters meeting name is fairly ironic because there's rarely anybody from the public who attend that meeting. So something is going wrong. In fact, one of your members believed nobody came to town council meetings because everything was going right, much to the shock of people at a previous meeting. Now, fortunately, Ben Aldridge and Paul Churchill, and I'll include Alan George on this as well, have become highly respected residents and councillors. And finally, we have leaders of this town council who put our town first and treat everyone both in it and out of town council buildings fairly. So are those two important councillors, three if we include Alan George, on the Public Participation Working Party? Councillors Churchill and Aldridge have the respect of residents because they're honest and have integrity. To have councillors leading the working party and contributing to decision making, whose reputation online and in meetings is anything less than the good conduct demonstrated by councillors Aldridge and Churchill, is unacceptable. How can the public trust a public participation working party that has members on it whose behaviour has been called into question and evidenced in writing as derogatory towards the public? Members who had to leave town council meetings for poor conduct during public participation. And I'm emphasising public participation here because if you have a public participation working party, you want everybody on that working party to have shown respect to the public during participation. Finally, with regard to video recording by the public at town council meetings, I'm very pleased to hear that you've acknowledged that legislation allows us to record. But I do want to just correct a few things. It was actually tabled by the Conservative government, not that I'm political anyway, and it was improved and introduced to ensure that local governance was more open, honest and transparent and managed for the benefit of the public. There is no requirement to give notice that a resident will be recording. Councillors do not have the ability to stop those recordings unless they are being undertaken in an obstructive manner that's obstructing proceedings, which in fact in the January meeting they weren't. Consent is not required under the legislation, and that goes for the public as well as councillors. With regard to the councillors, they can't refuse, they can't say we don't want to be filmed. With the public, I think people would always want to listen because there might be members of the public who don't want to speak and be filmed. And in fact, that's always been adhered to. There have been a couple of people in the past who didn't want to be filmed, but sadly they weren't being open and transparent with the public, as Paul has said. So the decision was made to carry on filming because it was important that that subject was highlighted. And just finally on that matter, whether a councillor has been reprimanded and even ejected from council meetings for covert filming or other misconduct is totally irrelevant to whether a member of the public does so. Town council filming policies are also not legislative. Government legislation is, and breaching legislation is a crime in law. The public is protected by legislation. The January minutes do not record that I actually explained to the chairman the legislation, and I continued filming, adhering to that legislation and good conduct, which I can confirm I have always shown in these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Is there any other members of the public who wish to say anything? If not, I'll just go through because we've got a couple of points here. So we did receive some questions earlier this week. We just run through those. Although I think Ken, Paul, and Annette, you've all referred to some of these in your comments. So there was a question around why residents' names are not appearing on the minutes. We've reviewed this within the council, and it will be addressed that at the start of each public participation going forward, for each resident wishing to speak, we will ask them to speak into the microphone, state their name, advise if they're happy for their name to appear on the minutes. And if they are, then we will include their name on the minutes. If they would prefer their name not to appear on the minutes, then we will add them as Paul said, resident, and then a sequential number count after them. But I would imagine that those people who wish to not be named would be extremely few and far between. Another question that came through was around the public participation, agenda item 9 in the original agenda. And the question is, could I ask that whoever gives the update, which Emma will do in shortly, gives the full names of all those involved, both councillors and all members of the public, and if members of the public who are on the working party are involved with the Portishead Independent Party in any way whatsoever, and if the public members are completely independent from any political party, and how they were chosen. So, but the working group, there will be a much fuller update coming shortly. But just to give you a very brief response to that, the working group at the moment does only consist of councillors in the first instance, and then as you hear from the update, there are follow-on stages that we will start to go through that will bring in residents, members of the public, and you will hear more about that shortly. Next question received was around the recording of meetings. So Annette, as I stated at the start, you know, the intention is not to stop people recording. We do want to give members of the public the opportunity to say that they do not wish to be filmed, and then it is down to the individual who is filming and that individual who wishes not to be filmed to decide whether or not, you know, they point the camera away, or whether the resident wishes to leave. That can be decided, but we have no intention to stop residents from filming the meetings. And the last question was around the posting of meetings on the Town Council website, as they give the impression to residents that in order to attend meetings in person, they have to book in advance. This, of course, is incorrect. So we are making amendments to the wording of the notices in order to make it clearer for all. But that is, you know, they do not need to book. They can book, and they can present the questions up front if they so wish, but it's not a requirement. It will also, and tonight we've arranged it, it will also be sorted that the front door will remain open for council meetings. So anybody who, for whatever reason, is delayed, can't get in time for the start, they can still easily access the building. So I hope that gives answers to those questions raised. Can I have your permission to speak? Ken, by all means.
As you know, I've said many times, I've been coming here a long time. Time and time again, there's meetings at working parties to sort out public participation. If it's so awkward, this public participation, like you promise all kinds of things before you get elected, now you're in here, you hate public participation, so why don't you just stop? Why don't you come clean and just say, you lot can't speak anymore? Because that's what you want, really. You know, deep down, you know, you don't like tall bags like me speaking every week or every meeting. Yeah, I'm concerned about constantly having working parties and public participation. It's the main part of the meeting. It's the meeting where people who got something on their chest. I mean, we only see you every 2 months. You know, so by the time something comes up, you know, time goes by and you kind of goes to the back of your mind and something else comes up because of these 2 monthly council meeting that you have. Because that was the worst day's work you ever done. But constantly having working parties of public participation, it just goes on forever. Come clean. If you don't want public participation, say so. Then when people know when the election comes, they know exactly where they stand.
Well, Ken, I can assure you, I appreciate you coming down here every council meeting.
For the last 20 years that I've been coming here, there's been at least 10 or 15 working parties on public participation. And that's probably say the same. Time and time again, there's working parties on public participation. You don't want us here, just say so.
Well, the working party on this occasion that you will get an update on shortly isn't specifically around public participation as we see it here right now. It's about public engagement. And that's a two-way thing. How we as a council engage with the public, how we get the public to be more engaging with us. And Roger, I think you want to just make a point.
Yeah, I just would say, Ken, honestly, we do appreciate you coming down here. We honestly want more engagement from members of the public and not less engagement from members of the public. This working party was put together to see if we could make the situation better, not worse. The last thing we want to do is put people off coming along to these meetings. We're here to represent the public. We would like to hear the public's views on all manner of things, not just views that happen to coincide with our views, but views that oppose ours as well. I think it's really important for our democracy that the public have a voice in these meetings, and that means in all council meetings. So no, we don't want you to disappear quietly. We want you to keep coming to meetings. We want to have the public involved in what goes on for this council.
Thank you, Roger. Raina has got her hand up. Raina, if you'd like, if you could come up to the microphone, please, just so as we can capture it.
How many of the public are on this committee to look at public participation, and how do you select the public?
So that will all come clear when Councillor Blackmore gives the update on the engagement working group.
Yes, just two things. I'd like to think that what is said in these meetings about respect and integrity goes outside the meetings as well, because the councillor who just spoke has put the most appalling things on social media as evidenced in writing. So you can't say one thing in these meetings and then expect the respect if you don't get it when you're outside of the community. And I'm happy to provide you with that. I'm happy to provide you with that evidence. And it was as a councillor that he was speaking, not as a member of the public. And then just very quickly, sorry, Paul, you know, when you were talking about the agendas and making sure it's more open, that people don't think they have to book in advance. Online, it always says book online and give your name in full. And if there are people who don't want to be recorded and don't want their names in minutes, then I think that you need to adjust that as well with regard to people wanting to go online. That's all I wanted to say.
Yep, that is part of what we're reviewing. And just a note to all, if we can avoid personal points, please. If we can address to the chair. I think Mike, you wanted to and I think we have got 1 point online after you, Mike, as well.
Thank you, Mike Johnston, and speaking a few words as chairman of the Gordena Civic Society. I would like to just firstly mention urban trees. Urban trees, they are part of our street scene. They're very important, providing shade, providing interest within the urban environment, and they are of great importance, especially if they're TPO'd, but if they're not, they can be just sort of removed without sort of warning. And this has recently happened. I was away about 3 weeks ago, came back and found the lovely, probably a century-old beech tree outside St. Barnabas School, gone, completely down to its base. And it's a very sad loss to us, that neighbourhood. I live 100 yards away and been there 30 years. And the tree, as I said, has been there a lot longer than me. And I don't know what the reasoning was for its demise. I suspect it could have been a little bit of rot. There are some bracts and fungal growth around the very base of it. But I've yet to speak to the tree officer at North Somerset Council, who's on leave until the 19th, to try to get to the bottom of it, and as to, you know, whether it's going to get replaced, on whose land it is it the parish church, or is it on North Somerset Council's land? So I'm trying to involve myself in that with a view of trying to get a replacement tree. And I live in hope. I would also like to thank the council for the contribution, financial contribution you made towards the Lorimer's Park restoration. This is now complete, and I hope you've all seen it. Lorimer's Park, that's at the bottom of West Hill, the top of Beech Hill on Nor Road. And it's been sort of restored back to how it was made back in 1900 by Chairman Lorimer at the Portishead Urban Council in those days. I think the society has done a very good job. Those that were involved in it, the committee and so on, and the financial assistance was from yourselves and others was a huge contributory factor to bringing a degree of interest back to that rather grim previous triangle of land with its bench seat on. Now it's got proper seats, it's got an interpretation board, which is well worth reading. So we look now for another project, and I hope in due course I'll be returning to this rostrum to announce another thing that we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And one final point made by Laura online, which is around the public participation item, which refers to only being able to discuss agenda items. So we, like I said earlier on, we are amending that. It really should have appeared in this one, so apologies for that. But the public participation will no longer refer to residents only being able to raise subjects that are in the agenda. Okay. That brings us on to agenda item 6, North Somerset Councillor reports. So we've got a couple of district councillors here. We've got Roger, we've got Tim, and we've got Sue. Yeah, if you're happy with that, Sue, are you happy to go first? Okay, Roger, you're in the seat.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. There's so much being done by North Somerset councillors. To report on everything would probably take the rest of this meeting. So I put together some of the items I think you would find most interesting and relevant. I'm sure we have all seen the Chancellor's recent budget, in which there was little to celebrate for local government. However, I am pleased that the Chancellor has finally agreed to extend the Household Support Fund, which has helped millions of households facing hardship. It is disappointing that this is only for a short period, and I hope that proposals for a successor to this scheme will come forward soon, as hardship is expected to increase over the next 12 months. I've attended meetings for the North Somerset Adult Safeguarding Board, the Bus Service Improvement Plan, the consultations on waste collections and parking charges, and the Tropicana, to mention just a few. I've attended a number of meetings, as are the other councillors here, on the Wyndham Way Development Area Long-Term Plan. These are to see if we can make some changes to the plan that would allow Portishead Town Council to support the plan. There are proposals to reduce the headline housing numbers in the plan, which may resolve many local issues. The Wyndham Way Development Plan lays out the council's preferred plans for this area over the next 15 years. Land in this area is already privately owned and could be developed at any time. Having a plan in place gives us a degree of control over the shape of any future development. This plan is very much needed to ensure that Portishead has a net gain in jobs and for the protection of Portishead's High Street. The proposed development will be a mix of light industrial and commercial use, plus a limited amount of housing designed to provide sustainable housing and employment for the future. A key point I've brought up at these meetings is the principle of no development without infrastructure. And I believe that the Wyndham Way plan will be the first in Portishead to actually deliver on this principle. I continue to hold meetings with town and parish councils to strengthen the links between them and North Somerset Council and to enable all your local councils to work as a team. Because at the end of the day, all your councils are working to improve your area. The unfortunately named North Somerset Weed Day was well attended and brought out a lot of useful information on pesticides and other forms of weed control. St Peter's Road is Portishead's trial area for pesticide-free weed control, and I'm pleased to say that North Somerset has agreed to send out a team to manually clear all the weeds from the roads and the cul-de-sacs off it to give the trial a clean slate to start from this year, which I think a number of councillors were involved in doing that last year, so hopefully that will be welcome. Each month we see more work being done on the Portishead Railway. Many of you may have noticed bushes being trimmed and holes being drilled and assumed that precious little was being done. This could not be further from the truth. The last year has seen a lot of preparation work being completed to protect wildlife from the development works, and there is still plenty to be done. A number of trees that have grown on or close to the tracks will have to be removed. Hedges will need to be removed and replanted after the work completes, and invasive plant species have been catalogued and managed. We are now at yet another milestone on this project, as design plans for the station have just been released. Anyone wishing to have their say on these plans will find them on the North Somerset Planning Portal. These will be on the agenda for Portishead's next planning committee, so please feel free to attend and give us your input in person. As things stand, and these things can always move, but as they stand at the moment, the project is scheduled for completion in late 2026. Finally, I've been working with colleagues in North Somerset and the NHS to ensure that all our pharmacies are accessible for people with disabilities and to get additional pharmacy provision for Portishead to replace the Boots pharmacy that is due to close. It can take some time to get a new pharmacy in place, but rest assured that work has been going on behind the scenes for the last few months. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Sue?
Thank you. And just to say, I'm Councillor Sue Mason, representing Portishead West on North Somerset Council, and I am happy for my name to be added to the minutes. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to Roger. I think it's difficult to add anything extra to what you have said, but yes, North Somerset is very busy on everyone's behalf, and all of us work very hard with what we're doing. So thank you, Roger, for what you have said. I was going to mention the Weed Inquiry Day, but I think you've covered it very well. But what I would like to add is that it wasn't just North Somerset councillors, it wasn't just representatives from the town parish, and also the various environmental groups within North Somerset, but there was also councils on there as well, from and also from universities as well, from all over the country. So it wasn't just people and groups from North Somerset, because all of the country is looking at different ways of dealing with weeds, or as my father-in-law said many years ago, a weed is a plant in the wrong place. So yes, so I will say no more on that one. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. As I've mentioned in the past, I do a monthly surgery at the library, and this time I had two other people with me. We were all in the entrance, so people stopped and talked to us. And so the two people I had with me was Kylie, the PCSO, and also the community response officer, Chris Olive, and they were answering questions, and so were I as people came in, and that was good. And I'm hoping that they will come again when I'm there. I've also attended various meetings, North Somerset meetings, either in person at the town hall in Weston and online as well, which is quite useful, especially if your meeting is only an hour long. It's very helpful. I also joined Roger at the Wyndham Way study meeting, and that wasn't just us. It was consultants as well. Some of whom had actually come down from London just for that meeting, and they had been delayed. But yes, it was very important to have them there. And I've also, of course, taken part in the bus meetings and all of the meetings that have involved Portishead, and I will continue to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Tim, did you want to give a quick update?
Yeah, just a couple of little things town-wise. Managed at long last to finally get the rest of the signs around the Lake Road for no overnight camping. They were taken down years ago. I don't know who's taken them down, but they go out and come back down again. So we're chasing that up. So we've got those back up. So the whole of the lake grounds is now covered. The other thing was, just been having a look around at the usual drains again, reporting the drains and the potholes in North Ward is quite difficult. We've only got one gully cleaning lorry now for the whole of the district. So shocking as it is, best thing, if anybody wants to help, just go on to the report on the website for North Somerset and report it as well. So the more people report, the more urgent it becomes. So that's the best thing, help me out. Okay. Oh, and another thing is bin collections. Been having problems with my ward. Bin lorries not been able to access, or saying that they can't access down to the certain streets, and bin collections have been left. Some of them have been left for 2 weeks. So we're chasing that for there's a collection van goes round for missed collections, but they don't go around if they're not reported, and then residents report it to me like a week later saying they haven't been for a couple of weeks. So if anybody's getting missed collection, get a hold of me sooner. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tim. We'll move on to agenda item 7, which is to consider and approve the minutes of the last meeting. We've got 2 sets of minutes to consider here. We will deal with them. The first one is the full council meeting from the it was the 16th of January. Hopefully everybody has had the opportunity to go through the minutes, and if you've got any questions, concerns you want to raise, I have 2 minor changes. One is that under the members present, we've missed off Ben Aldridge as the chairman, and also under the minutes of the chairman's update report, it refers to the report being received from me as opposed to from Councillor Ben Aldridge. So if we could make those 2 amendments. Anybody got any other points they want to raise on the minutes? If not, we will. Nope. Okay. And the second set of minutes that we review are from the extraordinary meeting, which was held on the 24th of January. And again, anybody got any points they want to raise on the minutes, or if they feel that they are an accurate capture of what happened on the day? No, okay, fine. So yeah, I will. The recommendation is for members to consider and approve the minutes of the full council meetings held on the 16th of January 2024 and the extraordinary council meeting held on the 24th of January 2024 for the chairman to sign the minutes as a correct record. Can we have a proposer, Bob Cartwright, and seconder, Roger, and all those, if we ignore vote. Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. Agenda item 8, we have a couple of groups here who just want to go over a few bits and pieces, give us an annual report. So Kim from the youth centre, would you care to step up?
Thank you very much for having us here today. I'm Kim James, I'm Head of Centre at Portishead Youth Centre, and this is Zoe. Zoe is one of our trustees. Is there a copy of our report on the screen, please, Betsy? Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you. So as you can see from the first slide there, there's been some quite major key updates this year. So we've worked really hard over the last couple of years in terms of looking at our name as an organisation and the types of people that we support with our organisation. We've done an extensive piece of social impact work, which has involved staff, volunteers and trustees. And we are now, according to our Charities Commission listing and also with Companies House, we are now Portishead Youth and Community Centre Limited. So that's a real big change for us, but something that we hope is going to really reflect the massive range of different people that we support at the youth centre and the different services and provisions that we provide. Coinciding in with this, we've also been working really hard on redesigning our website. So that is due to go live in the next few weeks, and it will allow parents to book their children into activities and sessions, make their payments for those activities, and also help us to manage our bookings in a lot more efficient way, so that we can spend more time making a difference to the people of our community. And we've also underpinned all of our changes recently with a bespoke evaluation and monitoring system called Lamplight. So it's a specialist system around social impact, and that again will help us to really effectively be able to evidence the hard work that we put in and the impact that that makes on the people that we work with. So just a bit of a summary of the last year. So some real highlights and successes in that we've employed a new engagement and outreach worker. This role is all about working with the local community, working with different organisations that deliver services in the town and further afield, and getting to understand where there might be gaps in services and provisions that we might be able to support and help with. There's a lot of work that goes into engaging with the PCSOs, with the Portishead Wellbeing Project, and lots of other key organisations around the town that support people within our community. This piece of work also involves working with those young people who don't currently come to the youth centre to try and support them in understanding what it is that we could offer to enable them to have the same opportunities and access to services and provision as any others. We've also employed a new alternative learning provision mentor, and part of their role is delivering one-to-one mentoring, which is a real key area of support that we provide at the youth centre. So having that additional role is able to help us with making even more of an impact with young people in particular. This year has been challenging with rising costs. That nobody is immune to that, whether that's personally or through work. We are a real living wage employer, and that's something that's really important to us in being able to reflect the hard work that our staff put into delivering our service. But with that, there comes increased hard work required for generating more income, and that also involves funding applications. So the support that we have from the town council is absolutely vital in helping us to keep the lights on. It's those kind of core costs that aren't necessarily seen as the most exciting things for a funder to contribute towards, but are the absolute foundation of the work that we deliver. And this last year, we've worked with more individuals than ever before. So you'll see as we go through the next few slides, the difference that we've been making. So these aims and targets are the original targets that we set as part of our SLA for our funding. And I'll just talk you through briefly how we've been getting on. So in terms of our preschool and family work, we've been working with more and more individuals. So on the next slide, you'll see some quotes from some of our attendees. So parents who make use of our services, or they bring their children to activities, and the difference that that's really making to them and their families. Our target was to work with 1,000 parents and 2,000 children over the last year. And as you can see, we've massively smashed that target. And we're really, really pleased with the numbers of people that we are engaging with. Parents also feeling more confident and knowledgeable and are able to access support through the services that we deliver with our qualified and experienced staff, but also from speaking to other parents as well and having shared experiences. So we also aim to increase the social and emotional skills of children that come to our activities to help them prepare to become school ready. And there's a lovely quote there from a parent whose child comes to our creche, and they outline that the great variety of arts and crafts, playing in the home corner, creating things with Play-Doh and numerous messy play opportunities is what's made the difference to their child. And it's provided them as a family with much needed stability and reassurance. And that's really important to us, that families feel safe and that their children are coming to a high quality provision at the youth centre. We also aim to see an increase in the positive mental wellbeing of parents. And last time we came here, we delivered some baseline average scores from our questionnaires with parents. there are some areas that we would like to work on, and this is helping us to shape our provision plan. Ultimately, we are working with people, people's moods and challenges change, and it's for us to be able to interpret those scores and see where we can deliver slightly different interventions or different areas of support or work to help to increase those numbers overall. So in terms of youth work, we aim to work with 200 young people a year through our Universal Youth Club sessions. So we run 6 open access sessions a week. We also run a junior youth club session for children aged 8 up to school year 6. And we run 2 sessions a month specifically for young people with additional complex needs. We've seen a huge number of young people, so 5,095 visits to our youth club sessions between April last year and March this year. And in addition to the 262 members that we had on our membership database from the previous year, we've also welcomed a further 150 new youth club members who are engaging with our activities. So we're incredibly proud of this. Some of the activities that we deliver are a little bit more specialist and targeted. So we have our Dungeons and Dragons Club. We do a support information and advice session once a week, and we also deliver amateur guitar classes. And as a result, we've been able to work with 95 different young people, again, more so than our target of 70 per year, to help them to engage in something that is a little bit more niche or a little bit more targeted to the skills that they would like to learn with us. So through our work with young people, we aim to see a marked improvement in the wellbeing and social and emotional health of our young people. And we measure this through a measure called the Strengths and Difficulties Questionnaire. And you'll see a chart there which shows the difference that this work has made. There's lots of notes for anyone who would like to read through them and understand the measure in more detail. But ultimately, the first 4 measures, so emotional, conduct, hyperactivity and peer problems, we would aim to see a negative score for those. So the impact of those areas of their life is reducing, therefore making it easier for them to cope with different situations. And then we would I also anticipate for the pro-social that their scores would go up. So this, I feel, is a reflection of where we are at the moment with regards to the challenges that young people are facing. Again, we're working with human beings, and things will affect people in different ways. So these areas are helping us to plan our future provision. We can understand where it is that we might need to target specific services or specific types of help. But one thing we are really pleased with is that the impact on these young people of the challenges that they are facing has massively reduced. So whilst there still might be areas to work on, overall, we know that we are making a positive impact on those individuals. So we also aim to work with 20 young people a year to make them become an active participant in our organisation. And giving them opportunities to volunteer. And we've been inundated this last year with young people wanting to do their volunteering with us for their Duke of Edinburgh Award. So we've hit our target by 115%. With 23 young people who have come to volunteer during youth club sessions and to help us at the weekends with parties and events. And subsequently, 5 of those young people have then been offered paid casual work at weekends, and they are members of our staff team and on our payroll. So that's given young people a really positive opportunity to develop their workplace skills they can then take forward, and they can also proudly present on their CV. We aim to work with 60 young people a year to deliver ASDAN qualifications, which are informal courses that young people can have certificates for, and they are also nationally recognised as well. So they are really important to put on their CVs. The last time I came here was in around June, July time last year. So we have got a few more projects that we are due to launch just after Easter. So the number of young people that we will be working with on specific courses will be increasing over the next couple of months. We aim to encourage young people to really develop a sense of ownership of youth centre building and the sessions that take place. And one of the key successes of the last year has been the work that the Youth Planning Committee have put into delivering events and activities and also fundraising for other charities. In October, they delivered a 24-hour broadcast on their youth radio station, Radio Dynamic. They fully planned the project themselves. They spoke to local businesses and asked them if they could advertise their services and products, and presented as close to as possible a commercial radio station feel to their broadcast. The young people were invited to go and help to present the BBC radio breakfast show the week after their broadcast, and they raised over £1,300 for children in need. And I think for me, that's a real key success. It really shows that young people are really invested in our centre and want to give something back. So that's really, really important. We also want young people to take part in a range of sessions and projects that help them to get to meet other young people and help to broaden their aspirations. And we've had loads of opportunities for that this year. We always do a big Christmas dinner, and as you can see, just about there's lots of people sat around tables, and there was around 40 young people from all of our different sessions. So young people that wouldn't necessarily meet each other came together and enjoyed a Christmas dinner together, taking part in activities in our recording studio, going on trips, or taking part in discos and parties. So again, for us, it's about having this cross section of young people from lots of different backgrounds, different ages, different abilities, and giving them a place to be able to engage together in shared interests. And these are a few lovely quotes from some of our young people. So at the end of each session, the young people have the opportunity to give us feedback on their time at Youth Club that evening, and things that they've enjoyed or things that they would like to have available to them at the next session. And also parents often as well email in their feedback and testimonials as well. And it's a real testament to the work that we're delivering and what people are feeling about our service. And then finally, our work with senior citizens. So this area of work was new to us post-COVID, and is something that is still very much thriving at the youth centre. It's an absolute lifeline for some of the individuals that come. It's an opportunity for them to get out of the house, to meet with other people, to go on trips, to have access to activities that are stimulating and engaging, to have social events like Christmas parties with Santa, with presents, and entertainment, and is a real key part of the delivery that we do, and also help to inform the importance for us of becoming Portishead Youth and Community Centre. We are truly a space for everybody within the community. So we aim to work with 40 senior citizens per week, so a range of clubs and activities, and we are doing well with that as our target. We would like to engage with more, so anyone would like to come and join us, or has family or friends that you think that would be of benefit to, we would love to meet them as well. I'm just going to hand over to Zoe, if that's okay.
So just on behalf of the Board of Trustees, just wanted to add a thank you to the Town Council for their contributions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So a huge thanks, Kim, to you and the team at the youth centre. You provide a huge support resource to many residents in Portishead. It is hugely appreciated. I don't know if any councillors have got any questions. Emma?
It's not a question. So it's not a question. It was just the thanks, really, I guess, to Kim and the team. The broad spectrum of everything that you're doing is just absolutely amazing. And yeah, and personally, you're such a driven, dedicated individual for what you're doing. It's just amazing. Yeah.
I don't know how you do it, Kim. I really don't. But no matter whether I come in morning, noon, or night, you're always upbeat. All the staff are enjoying themselves. And people say about a good vibe, and I didn't know what a good vibe was till I went in there. Everybody's upbeat and enjoying themselves, whether it's little kids to senior citizens. It's a fantastic enterprise. You've got to go in there, and I think I speak for everybody here that you're doing a great job, and thank you.
So we can So the purpose of the annual report you give in is to demonstrate that you have delivered against the SLA, and so we go to the
No, not anymore. No, there are young people that are definitely interested in boxing, and finding access to instructors who can come in and deliver sessions is slightly more challenging, but it's something that we've got at the moment that has come up recently as an area of interest. So we are looking at who we could possibly ask to come in and help to deliver some sessions in a way that's going to be affordable, and we don't want to make that out of reach for a lot of young people. So yeah.
When I listen to you talk, I explain yourself to a lot of other than just you. Is that wise?
Yeah, well, you know, well, we're now Portishead Youth and Community Centre, so it has our range of and scope has changed, but we have lots of dedicated staff who are experts in different areas of work, and it's as a result of everyone working together. That's why we're able to reach so many different people within the community. But young people are still very, very important. And the reason why youth is still in our name is because we massively value them as a group within our community.
Something like the name that we
No.
The other thing that I would add, just to give you assurance, is that by increasing the diversity of what we're doing, we're not compromising with what we're doing with the youth. So we're actually extending what we're doing with youth at a greater level. We're thinking about what Kim has talked about the additional learning provision that we've got in place, and how many extra young people we're helping in that way, in addition to extending the senior provision, etc. So we're trying to balance all of those things without compromising. But what we've been doing really well at youth, from a youth perspective, we're trying to lift and shift and benefit more people in a wider range of the community now.
No, it's something to support that the work that schools do. Schools can only go so far in terms of what they can deliver, and so what we're able to support with is the other kind of more holistic well-being areas of all the nurturing and support stuff is something that can be more difficult for schools to be able to do in the same way that we do. So yeah.
And just to add to that, Kim and her team have got really close partnerships with the local schools who work together rather than separately. So I understand you asking that question, but I think they're doing a lot to make sure they're collaborating and building on what each other are both doing.
Okay. Thank you. Ken, sorry, Kim, sorry. We do have, just very conscious of time, we do have, thanks, Ken. I'm sure if you pop into the youth centre, Kim and the team there will be more than happy to answer your question. But we do have lots to get through. So the purpose of you presenting the report is for us to hear that you've delivered on the SLA, and with a view to us approving the recommendation to release the funds for the next financial year of £36,772. So the recommendation is to approve the release of the funds as per the SLA for the youth centre. Can we get a proposer? John, a seconder, Jenny, and then all those in favour? It's unanimous. So Kim, thank you, and sorry to rush that little bit at the end.
No, thank you so
Really
much
appreciate
for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Richard?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the invite. I won't present the report. The report is in the papers. It's not quite an annual report because it only goes to the end of February. But I will obviously issue at the end of March. I'll issue a full report, so the numbers might be a little bit lower than the full year impact. So it's been a busy year. It's been a busy year for North Somerset Citizens Advice, and it's been a very busy year nationally for Citizens Advice, and that's primarily due to the cost of living crisis. There is some debate about whether we can still call it a cost of living crisis because it's been with us for a while. But I can assure you the people that come through our door very much feel it's a crisis. Just on the numbers, just on the report, if I contrast last year to this year, we would have had around 227 households within Portishead accessing our services, some of those through the Portishead outreach. To date, this year it's 357, so it's some 50% higher. And actually, the Portishead outreach, which is the in-person element of our service, has been really busy. So, and I think that is again reflected nationally. So, yeah, and actually across North Somerset district as a whole, we've become very busy. We've scaled up. Lots more people need support than they previously did. Just on a sort of income gain things, these things are important. So, from a sort of benefits we found for people within Portishead. That's 232,000, so it's quite a significant number. That's not an unusual number for us to find because a lot of people can't access the benefits they're entitled to, and they just need help in navigating their way through that benefit system. A lot of that's to do with personal independence payments. We do a lot of work in that area. So quite a significant impact locally, obviously significant impact for individuals as well. Debts written off to the tune of about 53,000. Again, in this period. Really, our work in Citizens Advice is dominated by benefits and benefit advice. But I would say is that the complexity of issues when people come through the door, it's not one thing or two things. Actually, it's 5 things. It's not, they've got a problem with their benefits. Actually, it's also got a problem with their council tax, the problem with other debts. Energy debts has been a sort of an increasing issue through this year. And a sort of, I did think about, well, what's next year going to look like? And I think there will be some pressure taken off on some of the energy debts next year, and maybe inflation will go down and pressure on food prices will go down. So maybe the temperature will come out a little bit. But sorry, I hate doing these presentations because we're so gloomy. But the housing crisis has not gone away. The cost of rents, private rents particularly, it has not gone away. The debt issues that people have are sort of latent and are getting worse. They haven't gone away. And another statistic which is very worrying for us is that nationally, when we deal with people that come to us for debt advice, usually we can sit down with them and work out where they can cut corners, where they can come into a payment arrangement. 40% of those people, actually, when we look at their income and their outgoings, we can't make ends meet. They can't make ends meet. 40% of what we call a deficit budget. Their outgoings are more than their income, and those outgoings are just the basic outgoings. So it's quite a significant number. And just with the food bank, so one of the measures for the food bank is returners. People that come back and access the service time and time again. So about 57% of the people that are accessing food bank now are people that are regularly accessing the food bank. And even in our own stats, albeit we're reporting to you individuals, so we only count them once in a year, actually those individuals we've seen before. About 70% of our caseload of people that we've helped before. So there's a real story in there about trapped households, people that find it very difficult to get out of where they are at the moment. Probably last statistic, which I will highlight, and there are lots of statistics in the report, is just we've seen a slight change in the number of people that are coming and their disability. So last year, if we look at last year, we had about 50% of people would identify as either disabled or long-term health condition. But now in Portishead, that's 67% of the people that we're seeing will identify themselves as disabled or with long-term health conditions. And, again, that means that those people are feeling the pressure the most. It's actually also, why would I push this, is our ability to meet people face to face in Portishead really helps that cohort. A lot of people find it difficult to get transport. When people are in crisis, they want to speak to somebody face to face. Digital doesn't work for many people. So the sort of face to face element is really important. And obviously we do that very well with you in partnership in Portishead. Last thing I'd like to say is thank you for your support. We've enjoyed your support this year. It's enabled us to mobilise and deliver the service that those people need in Portishead, and look forward to your support. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
I think the numbers speak for themselves, Richard. You know, the need is growing, and it's not an insignificant growth. You know, 50% growth in the demand. It is an amazing service that you deliver to Portishead. Very difficult to value, very difficult to value, because it reaches into the darkest corners of some of our residents who would otherwise find themselves in dire situations. So really appreciate everything that you and your team do, and me personally, I think we should continue to support in however way we can. We've got the SLA, we've got the annual funding that we provide, we've got the cost of living, the emergency cost of living fund that I know that you've approached us on for a couple of occasions, and you know, that's all proved really beneficial. So thank you very much for that. Anybody want to ask any questions or no?
I'd just like to say thank you to Sue and Liz for the sterling work they're doing there, because on a Friday they're queuing out the doors, aren't they, to go and see them in there, and nothing's too much trouble for them. Really needed in Portishead.
I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Okay, well we will move to the important bit, and that is on delivery of the annual report. The council decide or at full council meeting prior to the next payment, if conditions have been met in regards to the SLA, to release the next payment for next year, which is £26,523 to be paid on the 30th of April 2024. So the recommendation is to approve the release of funds as per the SLA to Citizens Advice Bureau. And we have a proposer. I think Councillor Gunnell was quick off the mark there. Somebody a second. Alan, and those in favour, unanimous. So Richard, thank you very much. The next one is it's currently in the agenda as item 12, the bus service, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to bring it forward because it sort of sits better with the community-based activities. So Sandra Lubert, I think you're gonna give us a quick talk on this. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Bubird, and I am secretary of all aboard the 56 bus group that has been campaigning for better bus services in the Gordano Valley, including Clevedon and Portishead towns. And I'm here tonight regarding an application from our group for a West local bid towards a better public transport system in this area. Our group is formed by volunteer members who are all residents of the communities we speak about and are North Somerset Council taxpayers. We have been discussing the poor bus services with North Somerset Council for over 2 years now. We have researched the communities by physically standing out in shopping centres of both towns and asking people to complete our questionnaires so we know what is required. A simple, regular, timetabled service that travels through the local villages, to and around local town suburbs and into the town centres, forming a loop and a link between both towns as was previously provided by the 88 bus service run by Carmel Coaches. These events were done with the knowledge and full backing of North Somerset Council at the time, and the results were presented to them. However, even with this information and with our concerns being raised and overlooked by them, North Somerset Council officers decided to introduce the Westlink DRT, Demand Responsive Transport bus service. We agreed as a group to give the DRT service some time to trial, especially as we were assured by North Somerset Council officers it would satisfactorily meet the requirements of the communities that we had outlined. It began in April 2023. We were also told by North Somerset Council that it was the only service we would be getting, so it was this or nothing. We were invited to become bus champions and were told that there would be regular meetings held between ourselves and the transport authorities so that we could make them aware of any problems with the service, and they would then be able to rectify these as they came up. But unfortunately, this never happened. So we are now almost 1 year on, and our members and other local users are finding that the service is inconsistent, unreliable, incredibly frustrating with constant mistakes, and not cost effective in the short or long term. Buses generally only have one passenger aboard, and drivers say that they have to drive miles from one pickup to another. Many are leaving due to their frustrations with the management. They make their own suggestions for improvements, but these are never acknowledged or acted upon. This means that there can be a shortage of drivers, with new ones starting who don't know the areas or the procedures, thereby adding to the terrible service. Although we have been raising all these issues to both North Somerset Council and Westlink, nothing has been done as yet to change things, though we know that both North Somerset Council and WECA are aware that the service is not satisfactory, and we are constantly being told that things will improve shortly, but they don't. Recently, North Somerset Council have put out an advertisement for local communities to run their own bus services in their area via a new scheme called West Local. We see this as an opportunity to get the service that local people have told us they want. As such, we are planning to apply for funding under this scheme. In order to do this, we are changing our organisation from simply a group of volunteers into a fully constituted, not-for-profit organisation, so that we can apply for the money to source our own service, which would meet the needs of the communities as outlined above. If we are successful in this bid, we believe the service we bring to the communities will not just meet those needs, but also meet the needs of national and local environmental policies. We believe it will reduce traffic on our roads by offering public transport for school children, industrial and shop workers and shoppers alike. It could enhance the local business communities and tourism to the area. Our service will be offered to all public transport users, and as West Local suggests, accept all concession cards. Whilst the fight for the X10 bus was magnificent and successful, this and the X4 and X5 buses do not actually satisfy the basic needs of all the people. This is because all three go through the towns along the major routes, and so they actually reach a minority of the population because many people cannot get to the bus stops on those routes in the first place. Local bus services were previously undermined by first and local authorities, and buses reduced to central routes due to incorrect economic theories and short-term economic policies. So many people have to take their cars if they have access to them, and they use those cars, not just to get to the nearest bus stop to park and catch the buses, but just to drive to reach their destination. Good local community minibuses would bring people to those buses, so increase the business to those services. So even if those companies, i.e. First Bus, may suggest the community bus will be competition to their service and reduce custom, this may not be the case. In fact, it is likely to increase custom. It could mean that people will not drive to towns. They could catch their local community bus if it is regular, reliable and reasonable, especially given that we have been told that car parking charges in our area will be increased. So this would meet the needs of the people and of the towns by reducing pollution, etc., in line with government and local environment proposals and goals, as well as reducing congestion. The environment is a big issue and cannot be ignored. Politicians are keen to get people out of their cars, and a good bus service is the only way to do that. Our project could help improve the air quality in our area with less pollution. To achieve this, though, we need and are requesting your support with this project, politically and perhaps with set-up costs financially, although the latter would, we hope, be minimal. But there are costs involved, and some help would be appreciated in the setting up, i.e. costs of transport to meetings, advertising and promotional work and materials. We would also like to ask that if you hear of any other groups who are looking to start this process in our area, that you put us and them in contact with each other so that we can perhaps link together and not duplicate any activity. Please will you put this to the council for a vote from the councillors. Back us and back yourselves by supporting our proposal. Thank you for your time.
Sandra, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Any questions, any points anybody wants to make? Mike? Yep.
Great presentation. Well, we could be speaking about this for the next hour or so, couldn't we? So I won't ask any questions. I just feel that we need to continue this dialogue in an appropriate meeting, some discussion, some form or another, and I'm sure that Bob and I can, get together and sort of organise something.
So now you know about it.
Yeah, and it's very exciting. Really support what you're doing.
Thank you.
Roger?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. That's all right. I'm not going to ask a question, so you don't have to respond. No, I was just going to say thank you very much for your presentation. It's really good work that you're doing. I think there's £2 million in funding available, probably not all to one project, but at least there's funding there. As a town council, I think a good community project like this is something that we should be supporting. I don't know if you need a letter of support or if you just need us to say that we support, but whatever it is, that's fine. When it comes to funding, obviously there'll be a grant application process for that, so that'll be dealt with separately. But yeah, when you get to that stage, I would suggest that you come back, you put in a grant application, and we'll take that along with normal grants and see what we can do to help. But yeah, no, great project. And if we hear of anything else, we'll try and put you all together.
Thank you. Right, we will move on to agenda item 13, the Wyndham Way toilet block. Oh. Sorry, yes, sorry, I've moved the agenda. I do apologise for that. Yeah, so sorry, agenda item 9, which is planning advisory group, followed by community matters, followed by public participation. Sorry, were you asking if we could do the public participation one first? Okay, Emma, do you mind if we jump that one forward? Thank you. No, I think you're fine if you just switch your microphone on there, Emma. That's absolutely fine. And I am very conscious of the time. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. It is a long agenda this evening, so thank you.
Yeah, fine. I just checking if Laura can hear us, if the microphone's still working all right. Laura, can you still hear us online, or can any of the online participants hear us?
Hi, the bits that I'm struggling to hear is when people in the audience just speak because there's no one with a microphone. So I just wondered, can the council not get someone with a wireless mic to pass around for these situations? Because I've missed out on quite a lot of questions that have come from the seats. I can see your public participation slide.
Lovely, thanks, Laura. Okay. I'm going to be made a note of the, yeah, excellent. Okay, right, let's start then. So, yeah, if we can go on a slide. So, what we've done is we've put together a slide deck in effect, just to sort of put together the scope of what we are terming as the public participation work group. This is an interim update. This will be a presentation that grows and builds, as does the scope. And when we get on to the other elements of it, you know, when we get the public participation and everything else going, it will kind of build. So this is going to be our working document as it is at the moment. And then, as I said, it will sort of grow. So we refer back initially to our scope here, which we agreed in the full town council meeting back in November. So I thought it was worth just putting the slide in there just to sort of highlight what that was agreed. So it was to review the public participation and engagement and report back to council, which is obviously this is our first interim report back, with recommendations to improve public participation and engagement in all meetings arranged by the council. I think we've probably found in our discussions that actually engagement is necessarily only in council meetings. Obviously, it's for us to be able to engage with the public in everything that we do, and definitely not just in the council meetings themselves. So although that is our sort of approved scope, it will creep and creep for the benefit, really, I guess. Okay, so our next slide there is just our current team. And I think the question that was put to the councillor this week in terms of who we are and what we're doing, at the moment, the team is just myself, it's Roger and it's Bob. We've got space, obviously, for all of the other people that will come into that team, but we were volunteered. We volunteered ourselves to that position in that town council meeting back in November. So as it stands, as I said, at the moment, it's just the three of us, but obviously that will extend to all of the other members of the public, community groups, and everybody else that we want to pull into the working groups as we go on. Okay, our next slide. So we've put together our initial primary goals, and these are to make sure that from an engagement and participation point of view, we deliver as a council and as councillors transparent, clear, inclusive and timely communication, that we absolutely increase public participation in all manners in terms of what we're doing. We're harnessing public opinion, and when we do that, and what I mean by that is that we're actually taking public opinion, and that is forming the decisions and the decision-making processes that we have as a council. And then what we can do is sort of demonstrate that as well. We need to expand the methods of engagement to all of our community groups, and just make sure that everybody is involved in terms of what we do. And absolutely, we need to build trust and communication, cooperation with all of our community groups and the public and all of our residents as well. Okay, yeah, next slide, thank you. So these are our primary areas to address. We've got 5 down here at the moment, and this is a working list. This is feedback which is being gathered from experience and also public feedback that we've had into the council as well. So we know that public participation in the full town council meeting is limited. It can be seen as negative. As a council, we're not necessarily seen to be positively engaging in all circumstances as well. We need to increase the public and councillor engagement outside of published meetings. The council meetings themselves do not generally include anything maybe which interests people. So we limit ourselves in sometimes by a published agenda, and we're excluding people from coming and thinking that they can input, and having, you know, that what we've already discussed today, making sure that people are aware that they can come and talk, you know, about anything that they want to hear, and it's not necessarily stuff that is published on the or minuted or published on the agenda as well. And then council meetings, the last point there is they're not necessarily seen as a safe space for people to come, and in some cases, obviously, from a councillor perspective as well. We do have feedback from the public who don't want to come to the meetings, but they want to submit information via email or meet a councillor in person or something like that. So we need to make these spaces engaging, and we need to make sure that everybody's welcome through the door and everybody knows that they're in a safe environment when we're in all meetings, Full Town Council, Community Matters, PAG, etc. We need to make sure that it's, you know, it's all open, and everybody is free to come and say what they want, and you know, that's constructive as well. That's important. Okay, so our next this is our approach. So we've kind of just done 1, 2, and 3, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they, you know, number 1's this year, number 2's next year, number 3's the year after. So number 1 is literally our quick wins, and we put our quick wins together because it was things that as councillors we were actually able to do and responsible for. So I've kind of said here that we wanted to be able to prioritise those items that didn't necessarily have any bureaucracy around it, didn't have any impact to any other individuals or working practices. So this is what we kind of termed as what can we do now? What can we do now to change? And you can see a couple of the things through this agenda that we've been able to do. So it's fetching community updates from our other community meetings that we have on a monthly basis. So providing those in this forum, and also just making sure that we all of the interactions as we've got with the council and with the councillors as well, we're actually feeding back into these more open forums, because there's a hell of a lot of things, I guess, that we're all doing on a weekly or a monthly basis. And because the agenda on a Full Town Council meeting it can be packed and it can be sort of boom, boom, boom. What we want to do is make sure that we're actually making sure that everybody's aware of all of the other elements of things that we're doing on a monthly basis and on a weekly basis as well. Item number sort of 2 on our list is kind of the what's next. So we're kind of nearly at that stage now. So our next stage is to actually start to enlist residents and build our actions and recommendations from there. So we've had to kind of step into this point next, and you know, not last month as it were, because what we need to do is make sure we get all of the kind of the practical support ready, making sure that we can actually start getting out to all of the different areas of people that we want as part of this working group. And then number 3 is our in the future list. So this is in essence where we've got potentially larger scale things to consider. So do we need to change a particular platform or communication channel? Is this going to have a real impact on somebody's working time or those kind of things? So that's the way that we've kind of approached it, to make sure that we can get stuff done now that we've got within our grasp. What's next when we start engaging everybody else, and then collectively when we agree what we can do, that's our number 3. But obviously from a time perspective, that will be a little bit on. And the next slide we'll come to will kind of show our timelines as well. So our quick wins were from our first meeting in January. We hope to meet in December, but unfortunately I was a bit poorly over Christmas and New Year as well. So we kicked off really in January. and has made sort of the different and the recommendations that we've got. Then from April to July, we're looking for our next stage. As I said, within the next couple of weeks, starting to engage all of the members of the public and the community groups that we want to. And then sort of from July onwards is our phase 3. So we really are trying to make sure that we do push on with this, and we can demonstrate that we are actually, you know, the momentum's there, but that change in practice is going to be delivered as well. Thanks, Wendy. So the next couple of slides I've got are a bit more of a detailed summary of what we see as our quick wins. So what we've got here, and the title in each of these tables might change to adapt to the information that we've got, but we've got challenges, backgrounds, and the kind of the rationale and the proposed solutions that we've got here for the quick wins. So our first challenge, which was identified, was that we do not proactively provide the public with relevant information following the community meetings. So unless a member of the public is actually at that meeting, or they read the minutes online, etc., they're not necessarily going to have the relevant information which we discussed in that meeting. So our proposed solutions for that is that each committee chair is, in effect, has a slot in this full town council meeting. So we can appraise and summarise anything that we've got. But ahead, which is number 2, and after, which is number 3, those community meetings, what we're going to do is provide a short summary to our communications manager and to any of the other council officers. And that will be actually put on proactively before the meeting. If there's any specific items that might have a heightened sort of interest in the town, one example I can use from this is our PAG committee just last month. So we've obviously had a lot of interest in terms of an application for the pontoon down in the marina. And obviously the concession for Timpson's in Sainsbury's as well. So both of those meetings we were able, Alan posted on Facebook as well, just to let the community know that these things were coming up. And we saw the highest number of residents that we've actually had at those meetings. So taking on board that kind of approach and making sure that people are fully aware of what's coming up in these meetings, that we don't necessarily see too many residents attending normally, but that means that people have got that opportunity to be able to actually come to that meeting. They know what we're dealing with, and then following the meeting, immediately following the meeting, we'll be able to post either the recommendations, motions, or decisions that have been made as well. So that tying it all in effect. Thanks, Wendy. So the next one that we had was really the recommendation, and the recommendations that we have in these type of meetings sometimes appear to be decided prior to the point that we get to these meetings. And what we have as a council, sort of quite regularly, obviously we have conversations and everything between each other, but we do have meetings which discuss the points on the agenda before these open forums. But I guess over the last couple of months, and certainly since, a lot of us are new councillors to this meeting, across the course of when we've all got elected, we're not really providing that debate that we're having internally in these open forums. So it kind of appears it's sanitized to a certain degree once we're here. But I guess what we're trying to do is demonstrate that actually a lot of arguments have possibly gone on in the background. But what we're doing is kind of presenting it in these meetings in a very sanitized form. And we're not demonstrating to the public, who are, very due to understand that we do have challenges as a team. We're all very opinionated in some cases, but we do need to be able to actually demonstrate and display to all of our residents all of the different rationales and arguments and everything that we've gone through. So what we think is that the meetings that or the discussions that we have had behind the scenes are kind of they've exceeded their purpose in that sense. And and what appears to be suppressed, or everybody following the same kind of line, it's not like that. So our proposed solution to this anyway is that each of the agenda items that we do need to vote for, instead of the chair, which is usual in these circumstances, is responsible for reading the points, pushing the motion. We're going to nominate another councillor who it might be, the motion might be sort of closer to their heart in terms of what they want to do. So that councillor will actually be able to give more information about that motion that we're fetching to recommendation at these meetings, allowing the chair to actually sit back and chair the meeting, really. So the second point that we've got there is that we need these agenda points to be able to be explained in terms of what we're doing, and then any of the councillors that have an opposing view has that opportunity at this point to be able to explain to the council and explain to the public what their rationale is. So we're just giving people space to explore, and debate, but space to be able to actually provide the public with the information in regards the decision-making process that we've gone through as a council. Okay, and the next one, and I think we've kind of skirted over this one with what we mentioned earlier around the public participation and the questions that we've got as well. So in some cases that we're not really seen at these meetings to deal with what might be difficult questions or difficult comments which are being made. We probably have got very few examples where a question's been answered and we've been able to answer it on the night. So we take it away. We have a written or an email response to a resident, etc. So what our proposal is here is to try and deal with those more swiftly. So number one is that we make clear that if questions are asked ahead of the meeting and we can answer them in the meeting, we will be answering them in these meetings. The second is that if it's submitted in advance, a nominated councillor, again, sort of leaving the job of the chair to chair, that nominated councillor will respond to that question. If we have a question that's asked on the evening and we can answer it, it'll be answered. If we can't, then we'll nominate a councillor to be able to take it away and answer it. If it's a little bit more, of a question, a little bit more complex, then we'll set up a team to be able to take that away and find it. But we are aiming to be able to actually answer that by the next full town council meeting, and not necessarily at that next town council meeting, but before it, if that's at all possible. Okay, so our what's next piece is the request for public participation. So our next vote is to actually now ensure that we're bringing our residents into the working party, obtain that broad feedback that we actually need, and obviously that feedback will give us those insights to be able to shape the plans, shape the scope, make sure that we're capturing everybody's feedback in effect in terms of what we're trying to do. So we're looking to engage, and these not necessarily in any order, but we're looking to engage with the members through organisations that we currently are sort of active with. We are looking for participants from our volunteer groups, from church groups, from our recipients of grants and funding, and our community groups that we've been working with as well, because we really want a broad spectrum of people in part, as part of this process. We're going to be able to, we're going to post on the Portishead Town Council website and obviously through social media channels as well, a summary of what these working groups are and what we are hoping to be able to achieve, to be able to garner engagement in that way. And obviously at the moment our town notice boards as well, flyers and things like that as well. So we just need to make sure that we're not just looking on social media, we're not just looking from an electronic communication basis in that sense as well. So that's our sort of our first next step. And our next one, which is officer participation as well. So we need to make sure that we're obviously keeping on the straight and narrow in terms of what we're doing with this working group. So we need to engage with all of the relevant council officers and the clerk to make sure that what we do is right, is compliant, is adhering to all of our council protocols as well. The next one. So the next one is about our visibility as councillors as well. So we've got limited public participation in terms of what we do here with with this forum, but actually what we want to make sure is that we're actually out there with the public know who we are, how we can engage, how we can improve our engagement, but at the same time make sure that we're actually broadening that. No, I know, Sue, when you're doing your surgeries as well, so it's taking something like that we know works, and broadening that as well. So what we're looking to do is actually schedule surgeries in various different locations, but publish that so people can know where everybody's going to be in advance. So we will publish along with the annual published agendas or meetings that we've actually got. We'll include locations that could be coffee shops or the pubs, or it could be at the library, at the youth centre and community centre. So just make sure that people are completely aware of our availability. We tasked obviously each councillor therefore to attend these sessions, so you at least know that there is a means of engaging at that point. The third and fourth points are around sort of engagement with the website and via social media. We've got some councillors that are active on social media, some that haven't even got social media accounts. So we just want to make sure that everything is as accessible as possible, really, I guess. But we want to make sure that we're using all of the available channels and not necessarily just, as you said, Facebook or something like that, because that's not going to get everywhere that we need, and that's not going to get everybody that we need to be engaging with either. The updates to the minutes. So again, it's a kind of a known fact, really, I guess, that because of what we need to do and because of the manner that we're actually the type of minutes that we take, we've got issues in terms of workload and conflicting priorities for the clerk and other officers as well. So what we're trying to do is be able to speed this up somewhat, which it is going to be a challenge in its own right, but we're going to try and work to be able to get there. So we're going to provide the communications manager with a set schedule. Obviously, our meetings are scheduled, so we know that when we need to be doing these proactive and posts, and obviously the updates of what's happened as those meetings as well. So that would be sort of a scheduled event that we will weave into into the working day in that sense. We'll work out a sort of a matrix as to what we can know that would have heightened public participation requirements or heightened sort of need for being able to let everybody know something that has gone on. Like with the examples that we were saying about the marina with the planning applications as such. And then one of the things that we have mentioned is changing the type of minutes which we currently produce, which is far more sort of, narrative and not necessarily completely sort of summarized in that sense, but sort of, decision based. So the factual information like we spoke about before, so the names, the decisions that were taken and how those motions were carried. Okay, and then the last slide, nearly the last slide, I think, yeah, is this is what at the moment is in the future pile. So a code of conduct to outline the behaviour and ethical standards the framework of promoting constructive, positive, respectful and environment. So we've got, as councillors, we've got the Nolan principles. It's just about understanding how we can use that as a fundamental to be able to put that out. The new councillor training, so offer training to councillors on public participation specifically, make sure that everybody is understanding of what that actually means. Meeting protocols, local government terminology, etc., and you know, procedures. Community group engagement. So obviously we mentioned about, you know, those touch points that we've got, but we've got a whole list as long as our arm of all of the agencies and organisations that we work with on a daily basis. So we want to be able to use that connection, use that information to have that two-way communication flow as well. Incorporating public feedback is obviously really, really important. And what we need to do is be able to demonstrate how that public feedback has shaped what we've done, because that's going to be cyclical, and help people understand that it is important to feed into us, because that's what shapes it. And then that's what allows us to kind of continue that kind of cycle, if that makes sense. And then the last one is to review our communication platforms and our technology as well. So how we communicate and what those target audiences are that we've got within you know, this kind of just communication world, really, I guess. So make sure that we are actually, it's fit for purpose for a start. We're engaging with as many people as we can, and how we can improve those facilitations, how we can improve those interactions. We want to make the engagements more convenient and accessible to everybody. And whether that's regular, you know, material in printed matter like the North Somerset Times or the Portishead Residents, perhaps a newsletter, and then obviously to help on wider scale projects, definitely something around sort of consultations and surveys and how we can do that as well. And I think that was my last slide. Yeah, Wendy. So just to let everybody know, we have set up just as part of our sort of SharePoint site that we'll get up and running. We have got an email address for public participation, so we've got that on there along with the sort of the normal contact points for the council as well. So yeah, so as I said, that our next stage and the most important stage will be actually getting out to the public and going through all of those community groups and all of those touch points that we've got to start actually getting people on board. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Quentin.
Okay, thanks, Emma. I'm just very conscious of time. Can it be really, if you can be really, really quick? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentations. I think you spoke very eloquently, and you won't be aware that a lot of what you said was already being done before. And so we were getting regular feedback through pink sheets in the council minutes of discussions and decisions. So you actually sort of reinvented what we already had. And I don't know when it disappeared, but it was from 2019 when the control changed to what's controlling the council now. And the other thing, the only other point I wanted to make is that on your last part for the future, you put code of conduct. That should be now, because it's now that residents and the public have got problems with conduct, and it needs to be addressed now. The Nolan principles has always been there. We've actually come to meetings and spoken about them many times, but unfortunately they're not listened to. That needs to be now, not for the future, because unless you start from that basis, then the public won't get that respect, you know, for you. But I think you spoke really well, and I thought you put in a lot of work. And the other thing is, with regard to the email address, I would want to know who was going to look at those emails, because there are members of the working party that I wouldn't want to liaise with. And I'm sure there are other people like that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. We appreciate that. Update from the chair of PAG.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I guess since we last met here a couple of months ago, we probably dealt with about 50 planning applications. Don't worry, I'm not going through them. The majority of them, of course, all relate to small extensions and such like, a few TPOs. I was going to talk about the three that have caused more interest, and as Emma alluded to, they have brought more members of the public down to you're going to be missing the slideshow. The marina was one in relation to the pontoon, and Sainsbury's and the Timpson Pod was the other, but I'm not going to go into them now. I'll just skip to the railway. And as Roger mentioned earlier, we've had dozens and dozens of planning applications coming through over the last couple of months in relation to the railway. And most of them have been, until this last Monday, they've been related to the public footpath diversions, cycle bridleways, the control of invasive species, trees, the siting of temporary and permanent access compounds, the drainage and flood mitigation, fencing, acoustic barriers, I mentioned that, cattle creep facility, ecological mitigation, etc. And then on Monday of this week, we had the station. And so I'm just going to illustrate a couple of the more exciting ones, as you'll see on the screen appearing. The initial one shows the actual design of the proposed layouts. You'll see that the Keys Avenue has been realigned, more or less in line with the curved building that exists there. And the station site itself will be overlapping the current Keys Avenue. And to the north of the station, you've got the large North Somerset Run car park. And then on the promenade heading west, you'll have another car park, which I guess is also North Somerset Council's responsibility and ownership. And then a couple of other ones in relation to the proposed station design. I think these are coming through here. It's going to be a canopied, quite a large canopy. And these are really off the shelf. It's a probability that this is a standard sort of network rail design now. This is very similar to Reading Green Park, which was opened last year. I feel, and I think I'm not speaking on behalf of the Portishead Rail Group, but I think that it's what we need to accept, because we can't start altering the scope of the project at this stage. Yes, there aren't any public toilets. Yes, there's no enclosed waiting room. Yes, there's no booking office. But I think the compromise here is much better than just a bus shelter on the platform. Okay, Wendy. And then the next one should show the canopy in its length with seating both sides of kind of an acoustic and rain barrier there. And that would be it. So yes, there will be a degree of being open to the elements. So we'll just rattle through these. I think not my fault. Should we just go down to the last two? The one on the bottom there was showing the entrance from the north side, main pedestrian entrance. Yeah, I think so. I thought the last two were actually illustrations of the. Yeah. Yeah, it's the last two down the bottom. I thought they were the last two, sorry. There we are. It's not that bad, is it, really? It's better than just a bus shut, as I mentioned. And then towards the right-hand side of that screen, there'll be a large enclosed blue wall, which is a nod on in the Network Rail parlance to the water, to the sea, nothing related to Portishead Blue. And it's mostly a sawtooth brickwork. Is it coming up, Wendy? Which is a prevention against graffiti. There we go. So the pedestrian walkway will be where we are sitting here, walking towards the station site. And of course, the main road will be more or less where I'm sitting right here. So we'll have to obviously cross that main road to get to the platform. And there'll be a ticket machine just at the bottom of the tower, enclosed ticket machine. So we will have one of those, which on the Severn Beach line there's only one, and that's at Clifton Down Station. So there will be revenue protection in view of the fact that by catching a train from Portishead, you'll be expected to have a ticket when you board. I think that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think this is very exciting, seeing the station now at long last.
Indeed, thank you. Very quick, Bob.
Sorry, just a couple of points. Obviously, it's great to know they're actually going to put something up now, because as I understand, originally it was just going to be a platform. But my question would be, do we know the compass bearing of the shelter as such? Because obviously, if it's a westerly to east, that means the wind's going to hit that every day, because majority of our wind comes from the west and heads to the east.
Don't forget to bring that question to PAG next April.
Okay, thank you. Em, do you want to do a very quick update on community matters, and then we can...
Yeah, of course, I shall rattle through. So I've got the last 2 months. We've got the January update and the February update. Start with January 1st in chronological order. So we reported some works that were happening in the Lake Ground area. Generally, there was some storm damage down there as well. So we had the play area, the skate park, and some trees all kind of receiving some attention back in January. Following a successful bid by the North Somerset Violence Reduction Unit, the Knifed Angel will visit North Somerset in May. And during the Community Matters meeting, we unanimously agreed that the Town Council would make a £1,500 contribution to the Knife Angel organisation, and that's going to support community outreach in Portishead during the time when the sculpture is in Weston. So that's there's various other things happening during that time when it's there as well. There's a knife amnesty and various other initiatives that are going on as well in May. So that will be important, I think, to just make sure that it's back in our on our radar by then as well, to make sure people are aware. Next thing, it was agreed that necessary works in off the Bristol Road playing fields. So there was collapsed hedging and a chain link fence which needed replacing. So again, that was a unanimous agreement that we needed to get that done. The last two items were related to the halls. So there was a discussion regarding the policy, or whether the council actually needed a policy to agree a charging mechanism for halls rental. And that was to just make sure that it was sort of a fair and consistent approach that we had when we had various organisations that were coming to us and looking for maybe a reduction in rent. So we've actually deferred that decision. We're going to pull it back to Community Matters in the next couple of months or so. So we've got wider input coming into that decision-making process. And then the last thing was the agreement for SWEDA to come and provide a monthly eating disorder outreach support service in Portishead as well. And the grant that we approved that was, or to cover the costs rather, for that for the rest of 2024. So then moving to the February update that we've got. So it was a note to everybody that the Lake Grounds survey, the long-awaited Lake Grounds survey, is started to take place as well. So yeah, please, if anybody sees anybody down there, please officers and councillors in that sense wandering around with their clipboard, please go and accost them. We also welcomed Councillor Jenny Eastman to the committee as well. Councillor Martin Dowling presented his sculptor trail maps, and that we've seen so many positive remarks on social media regarding those from a number of the Facebook groups in Bristol as well, Bristol and surrounds. As Martin mentioned, obviously North Somerset Walk Fest is taking place in May as well. So we're going to have a lot more visitors because the trails are actually on that as well. So that was all good. Grant applications which were ratified were Great Western Air Ambulance, Portishead Additional Needs Disco and Activities, best known as PANDA to most of us. Vision North Somerset as well. We did defer an application for St Peter's Hospice, and that was really due to us being nearly at the bottom of the barrel in terms of the monies that we have available. So due to an evaluation of needs and the impact that money would make, we've actually deferred the approval of that grant application into next year, just so we've got more available funds, and the funds that we have got left available to smaller charities that would make a significant impact to. We received a report regarding the Sustainability Day that was held in the Poacher, and it's good to mention that in turn has now turned into a bit of a catalyst for a sustainable forum going forward. We will be publishing more information on those meetings and that sort of collective going forward as well. The other point that we mentioned, and this consultation is actually still open until the 29th of March, and that's the North Somerset Council Mental Health and Wellbeing Strategy consultation. We are currently preparing a report to pass back to North Somerset Council, just demonstrating the positive impact that we've been able to bring to Portishead with the Wellbeing Partnership and our signposting services, and making sure that they're fully aware of the benefits that that's actually brought. And then the last thing, a bit more sort of sadly, we agreed that the Windham Way toilets are to remain closed following the antisocial behaviour and vandalism. And we're currently investigating on how we can possibly make those facilities more secure, because we, as a town, we do want to make sure that we're actually maintaining those as an asset, and the disabled toilets there are kind of protected. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Emma. You can breathe now. Oh.
No, I just wanted to say that toilet.
Can you come up to the microphone, please?
Oh no. Hello. Yeah, my name's Karen Harris. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the toilets and what was happening with them, really, because I'd heard rumours that they weren't going to reopen, and I feel like it's a really important thing that it should be, because even though it's mentioned all the incidents that have happened, 10 of those were all in the same month. So there's only actually 2 that have happened over 2 years since. So, and I think it's just important for me.
The next item on the agenda is a report on the toilet, and there are a couple of options in there that we need to consider.
Okay. All right.
So you're welcome. So agenda item 13, the Windham Way toilet report. Windaway toilets is an ongoing challenge to Portishead Town Council due to vandalism and certain goings on there, which is not really what we want to understand. We took over. We took on a 99-year lease from North Somerset back in September 2023, a one-off cost of £15,000. At this time, toilets need extensive renovation and repair, with a further £63,500 being spent in 2013, installing 2 modular toilet units, a unisex toilet and accessible toilet currently in place. These are bespoke units and maintenance is limited to the installation company due to the proprietary nature of the equipment. Entry into the toilet units is currently charged at 20p per visit, although the accessible toilet can also be opened using a universal radar key. The charge can be changed relatively simply by switches within the coin selector, although this may require a payment of a call-out charge to the installers of £300 a visit. It's also possible that we could replace or supply the coin or supplement the coin selector with a contactless card reader. Previous quote for this £7,600, excluding VAT to do so, although it may be possible to do this at a lower cost. So that's sort of one of the ideas that we could go down, where we could charge more than 20p per visit, or we could go and put a contactless entry system. Yes, Bob.
Yeah, I think I said earlier on at another meeting we had, the average charge now is 30 pence across the UK. There are many councils that are actually charging 50 pence, and with a contactless, they are up to £1. It does seem expensive. Oh, sorry, I'm not very good with that, but obviously it seems very expensive. But obviously, it's a non-profit format, and obviously, as I understand, it's about 20 people a day use the toilets, so it's not a massive amount. So it's trying to balance. I think that our problem is trying to find a way of securing the toilets and the best options that we got, and then obviously looking at the charging. Obviously, if the average is 30 pence entry across the UK, I think that's quite reasonable for the use of the toilet.
I think there's numerous questions. Thanks for that, Bob. There are numerous questions around this about whether or not we're charging the right amount per entry and the method at which we charge that. We have seen a lot of damage in there. There was a lot of damage back in October 22, which I think was when the main 10 of the 12 occasions happened. But we have gone on and seen further instances. But there's a big hit for the maintenance of this because it does generate a very, very small amount of money. We did have a predicted income from the toilets in the 2013 budget of between 5,200 and 15,600. In reality, between April 23 and January 24, that income was 480. So I think we can all agree it was some way short of the predicted income. So we do need to look at it. Do we spend the money on keeping the toilets open? Do we look to increase the charge? And again, the average cost is 30p. Will that really make any significant contribution to the running costs of these toilets? That currently the annual expenditure to keep those toilets open, total annual expenditure £9,205, which you know, for an income of 480 leaves a big deficit. There's a couple of questions. Yep, if you'd like to just make your point, and then Roger, I'll come to you.
I was just wondering whether it's able to just have the toilet open that has the radar key. And so that people with the radar key can use the toilet and that's available for them. The other side of the toilet that is payment, you know, I think that other people can access toilets for free, generally around Portishead, but if you've got a radar key, you need to use that toilet. You need that available. I need that available, not just for me, but for other people. That
Okay.
that's the purpose of them.
I think we can certainly look at that as an option. Thank you. Roger, you wanted?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, obviously, with an aging population in Portishead, public toilets are always going to be an issue. I wanted to ask about the sort of damage that have happened in the toilets. Has that been? There's 3 separate toilets, I understand. Is that correct? 2 toilets, one unisex, one disabled. That makes sense. So has the damage been to one or other? So has it been like the normal toilet or the other one? Has it been both toilets? And that figure of 9,000, does that include the repairs after the vandalism, or is that just the plain running cost?
Yeah,
so cleaning 7,500.
The cleaning comes to 7,600.
Yeah.
Per annum, and then there's additional maintenance costs on top of that.
So I mean, as an enterprise, it was never going to run a profit, even with the proposed figures, if we got anywhere near those. So the question is the value we get as a town from having the toilets there, isn't it? Is do we feel that we are getting sufficient value? If we could get rid of the vandalism, it would help, but it still wouldn't make a massive difference. 10 pence on the price, that's what, 200, 300 pounds. Yeah.
Well, the toilet seat says £400, a specialist seat for it. There's only one company that makes them, and then you've got to have it fitted, and that's a £300 call out. So any profit that we make would be one act of vandalism would just wipe that out. I did wonder about canvassing all the shops in the high street and asking who would be willing to, because I understand some of the coffee shops have got disabled facilities as well, whether or not they would allow people to go in there without purchasing goods to use the toilets there. Because if you've got that problem and you're in the high street, there's plenty of coffee shops and stuff like that that really, I would think, should be able to help out.
Yeah, so I mean, really, it's just a question for us to make a decision on the value to the town, isn't it?
It's valuable, really, but I don't know.
It is simply that. It is, you know, do we believe it is a asset to the residents of Portishead that we should maintain?
When we changed the times, obviously we restricted the times. That prevented a lot of the problems down there with the ewes hanging around and causing damage by the restricted hours. They were open till 8 o'clock, 8 till 8, and now they're restricted to 5 o'clock. No, yeah, 5 o'clock they're restricted to when they're open, which has made a big difference to the damage. Like the lady said, that, you know, there was a spate of it and then it died out a bit. Unfortunately, the camera that's down there doesn't focus right on the toilet, so you don't always see a cluster of people around it hanging around. And the other issue is, even with a radar key, people will let somebody in if they say they're desperate to use the toilet facilities, and sometimes they're the ones that do the damage. You know, and it's very difficult to monitor it.
Well, thank you, Roger. It was Mike, then David, and then yourself, Jim.
Briefly, yes. I mean, first of all, I'm just staggered that back in the council in 2013 spent 63.5 grand on these 2 modules. I don't know what they're like. I was going to suggest that maybe we could, before making a decision, we have a site visit there to see exactly, I've never been in them, to see exactly what they consist of, whether there's a sort of a cheaper alternative to facilitate a public toilet, because I agree with you that they are of a necessity. I was caught out in Clevedon a couple of weeks ago, and I had to go into WH Smith's and spend £5.50 to get a 20p coin. C'est la vie. So it's just. So that's what I would suggest, that we defer this until we go and have a good look at them and maybe come up with some other solution.
Thanks, Mike. David?
I guess it's a basic town council function to provide toilets, and it's hard to judge how much they would be used if people weren't having to put 20p coins into them or use their radar keys. I mean, if they were sort of swipe card operated, I guess I haven't carried coins around in my pockets for ages now. So there's the kind of potential that they could generate more income if they upcharge to 50p and just make them more accessible to people by having card contact. It's a really difficult one, isn't it? And
yeah, thank you. John, and then we have got some online, and then we've got other people that want to.
Just a quick thought. Firstly, there's no economic case for repairing the toilets at all, unless you're willing to increase the price to £2 a visit. And the other is, if you make them free and radar accessible only, you might get a lot less vandalism, because there'd be no incentive to look for cash.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are reading my glasses. The glasses don't work on that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk.
Oh, thanks, Laura.
It's a bit. I'm a bit cross that I've just heard someone say, unsubstantiated, that people with radar keys are letting people in, and that is sort of indirectly causing the vandalism. Before we go saying words like that about people that hold radar keys, can you please back it up with some proof?
A member of the public said to me at one stage, Laura, that they saw some lads had been let in by somebody who was using a radar key there.
Right, so there was one instance. I don't think it's appropriate to say that we got to watch people with radar keys in case they're letting people in to vandalise toilets. I'm really cross.
That's not what I said, Laura. I said that there's been an incident with somebody using a radar key, let somebody in.
Well, you can re-watch your exact words, but thank you for clarifying that it was just one incident by a third party that said one day they saw someone that they thought might have done it, rather than chucking in that potential barrier for people who are already facing barriers every day. Keep an accessible toilet there, please, and don't charge us to use it.
I would say, Laura, that there have been cases down there where senior citizens have been seen to let use in there, and then there has been damage afterwards. So,
well, as long as you can prove it, that's great. You send me that proof, and then I'll feel less cross about what you've said.
Okay, that's thank you, and thanks, Laura. And it was raised that maybe we should look at just ensuring that accessible toilet is at least the one that is maintained. Paul Gardner is just raising a point. If we can.
I just wanted to say, Alan, you answered a couple of my questions, but I have seen other towns where they basically got the local coffee shops or whatever to actually publicise the fact that they are open to the public. So it has been done elsewhere. So that might be part of the solution. I was going to ask: is the changing rooms accessible toilet for the lake grounds? Is that happening, or do we know? That was talked about by North Somerset Council. There's
toilets have been.
No, there was a last year. North Somerset were talking about putting something called changing places accessible toilet.
I think David Gunnell can give you the latest.
It's been a slow process, as you know. Went down there, I think, in August, and we were unhappy with the site chosen. I bumped into I can't remember the guy's name now at the We Control Day a couple of weeks ago, and they've agreed to relocate the toilet to a different location. But it's a work in progress, I think.
Okay, I was just, because obviously those guys they know how to run accessible toilets, so it might be just having a look at how they do it, might be helpful.
All right, okay, thanks,
Was that-
Paul.
Thank you.
So I think coming back to that one, we will look to see what we need to do to ensure that the accessible toilet remains open. And to Mike's point, I think we need to make a bit more of a study of this and understand what the costs are, to try and secure the unisex toilet, and look at whether or not can it be really quick. I'm very conscious of the time, and we've still got a number of items.
It will be really, really quick. I just want to say, you know, the idea about asking coffee shops, etc. I have a card that says can I use your toilet urgently? And I have been refused time and time and time again. And I am not going to put myself through having to ask somebody if I can use the toilet. It's when I should be able to access the public toilet. It's not right.
Can you name names?
No, I would not name names.
You're
But-
talking about establishments in the high street.
Yeah. Unless you purchase something. You know, because that's it. And if, yeah, it's not you know, it seems like it's a great option, but even with a card, it doesn't work.
Okay, thank you.
It's just something we've got to think about. That's, you know.
Yeah. We will look at that. We can talk to some of the retail units in the high street to get their view on that. Everybody, the final point, Tim, and then we're going to move on to the next one.
Going to coffee shops and asking, would it be a good idea to ask them if they could put a label on the door to say people are welcome to use their toilets for free without purchase? Maybe if you get a scheme for that, like we have, Janet David did a shop local scheme, with putting stickers on the doors. Maybe we could do something like that as a compromise.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on to the next item, which is the community halls replacement doors. This one we need to make a decision on. So this affects the folk hall entrance door at the side, which everyone who uses it will know that it's been damaged following an attempted burglary back in mid-February, and also Redcliffe Bay Hall main entrance doors, which failed an inspection for fire safety. So we've gone to 5 companies in the Bristol area for replacement doors to the 2 sites. We've received 2 quotes back. They're all listed there in the financial implications. We need to take into account the fact that the price of glass and aluminium is not very stable at the moment and fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. And so these quotes are subject to adjustment based on those prices on the day. And there is also some additional cost around our security company when these doors are fitted, being on site to disconnect the alarms, etc. And there's a cost associated with that of £190 per site. The replacement doors at Redcliffe Hall are required to mitigate issues raised under the fire risk assessment, and replacement of a damaged side door required to ensure our insurance cover remains valid. So the recommendation is that either as a council we vote on and approve that the side entrance door at the folk hall and the main entrance at Redcliffe Hall are replaced under quote 2 to a maximum value of 6,750 to allow for any fluctuations in component and material costs, or B, that the side entrance door at the folk hall, the main entrance doors at Redcliffe Bay, and the glass side screen adjacent to the folk hall side entrance are, quote 2, to a maximum value of 8,050, again allowing for fluctuations. So anybody got any questions on this, Bob? Away you go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, obviously you mentioned aluminium doors. Is this full frame aluminium doors compared to obviously the wood doors that are originally there? So I presume that's now upscaling them to full security and health and safety regulations, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. This is to deal with a risk that was identified as part of the health and safety and fire assessments that were carried out. Yeah.
So we need to assess on their account that obviously these are better quality at higher grade and obviously modern compared to the old format of wood, basic wood doors, yeah?
Yep. David?
It seems to me like it's a good idea to go for the or option to include the thermal regulation. I just wonder, I mean, I guess some of this will be able to get back on insurance because the damage done. Well, obviously not all of it, but the sort of focal front door, that was vandalism, so that should be covered by insurance.
Yeah, from a focal point of view, yes, that is a possibility. The Redcliffe Bay one is a maintenance piece. Yeah.
Update on that as well. The door very good as you want. In relation to the culprit for the door, he's going to be arrested and interviewed possibly next week. I've got to do a statement for the police tomorrow in relation to it, as identifying him. Emma and I went down and found him in the pitch and putt shed down there. So I'll make a statement tomorrow. Hopefully he'll still be down there and they can go down and arrest him. And I would think he'll probably put his hands up to it and it'll probably get demoted to a criminal damage. And they won't offer any payment of fines, etc., because he's got no job and nowhere to live. So we won't get any money out of him or anything from that point of view, unfortunately. Yeah, the insurance company will pay out for it.
Thank you. So obviously what we're being asked to do is approve sorry, Emma.
I'm really sorry, I'll be very quick. Are we assured that this is reusable when the works go on?
Yeah. Is this reusable?
Is it likely to be impacted by any of the hall's work that we've got planned?
No.
So it will remain in situ. It's not going to be changed. The requirements not. That's why I was.
Can I just come in there? The cost of the Redcliffe Bay door was included in the overall estimates of 400 and something thousand pounds. So this is an advance payment on it.
That's understanding. I didn't want whatever spec that we've got for this to then be replaced when we do the folk hall repairs.
See any problem at all?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
May I just ask, the side panel, the glass side panel, I notice it's on the list for thermal reasons. Wouldn't it be just easier to block it up and render it, get rid of it?
Well, I don't know if, but it would make it very dark out there. I don't know if because quite often you get a fire exit at the end of a corridor, so I don't know whether that would apply. But it's a question we can ask Mike to look at. But I think the benefit is relatively minor. It would make the hallway very dark as well.
Yes, I appreciate that.
So we're being asked to consider and approve costs. So I think that the first show of hands would be those in favour of option 1, being what we put forward, which would be the replacement of the side entrance door at the folk hall and the main entrance doors at Redcliffe Bay to a maximum cost of 6,750. So those who would vote in favour of that option?
Sorry, I'm just struggling. The difference between the two proposals here are the glass screen. Is that right? Yeah. So it's either with or without the glass screen is what you're asking us.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure I was straight on that.
Okay. So I guess by the fact that we only had a single hand up for option one, let's go over that one again. So let's go option one, which is just the replacement of the door here, not the side panel, just the door, and also the doors at Redcliffe Bay. Who would prefer that to be the approach? No show of hands. And then option two, which would be the Redcliffe Bay doors, the door here and the side panel. There we go. So we vote to approve. Okay. Can we have a proposer for option two? Roger. A seconder. Tim. Show of hands in favour. Hurrah. Good. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 15. Community halls, health and safety works and upgrade. We're all aware of the work that's going on here. A big piece of work. We are just entering into the tendering process for the procurement of a management company to facilitate the community halls, health and safety works and upgrades. We need to set up a councillor and officer working party to oversee the tendering process. How many councillors and
As many as you like.
okay. Would anybody like to put themselves forward? John, one. Ideally, we'd like maybe 3 councillors and then 1 officer. So, Mike, any more councillors willing to put their name forward? Jenny. So we've got John, Mike, and Jenny, and I guess from an officer point of view, the obvious choice there would be Mike. Yeah. Okay. We don't need to vote on that one, do we? No. Okay. Thank you very much. And then we move on to agenda item 16, finance. Mr. Davey.
This is all about earmarked reserves, and the problem with earmarked reserves is that they can only be used, created, or whatever on the authority of the council. That's the only reason they're here. From my point of view, it's just a bookkeeping exercise. Most of the transfers we're talking about involve the community infrastructure levy. I think everybody knows what that is. A tax on property developers collected for us by North Somerset Council and paid over in half-yearly instalments. We have 5 items on the list, and we can vote on each one separately as I work through them, if you wish. Right. The first one is for 8,671. This is money which CIL money we have received, but not yet put into the earmarked reserve. It's a statutory duty to do so because we are very limited in what we can do with CIL money. If we don't do it, we're in breach of the law, so I propose that we do it. Seconded. Right. Next one, more interesting, the skate park. The skate park actually cost us £339,000. We received grants of 242,000, which leaves the council's general reserve supporting the deficit of 97,000. We have already used 20,000 of CIL money to reduce that deficit, leaving a net deficit at the moment in general reserve of 77,000 for the skate park. The proposal is to absorb 60,000 of that by transferring money from the CIL reserve to effectively fund construction costs. That will leave us with a residual deficit in general reserve of 17,000, and it will help us immensely in the event that we have unexpected expenditure on the hall's repair projects, where we will need every penny we can get in general reserve. So I propose that we do it. Can I have a second, please? And a vote? Thank you. Right, third one, more CIL money. This time we'd like to actually set some aside for use in a specific purpose, which is the Slade Road playing fields, play equipment there, £10,000. This is not mandatory, but it's advanced planning. So I would like to propose that it happens.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Slade Road playing field, are you talking about the purchase of the new field in the future or the current playing?
Purchase of, I think this relates to the new field, which is
the new field, right?
planned. Yes. Right, fourth item. We anticipate making a contribution towards the cost of developments at the football club. Again, this is advanced planning. We don't yet know the shape of the deal at the football club. It's a matter of keeping our options open and making sure that we can use CIL money if possible. I'd like to propose it. Can I have a seconder, please? And votes in favour? Thank you. And the last one is a legal obligation. It's got nothing to do with CIL money. There's a patch of land called Heavens Field. It's used as a play area. It's near Redcliffe Bay. There was a boundary dispute. We sold part of the land to resolve the dispute, but part of the deal was that we would use the sale proceeds, the net sale proceeds after paying our costs, towards play equipment at that site. The amount available is 11,238. And I think we should honour our obligations. So I propose it. Thank you. Not bad. 10:32.
And we've still got the final 16.2 to go through, which is the invoice payment for North Somerset Park.
Yes, this is a normal contractual payment. The deal is currently under review with North Somerset, but as we have, at least in principle, received the services, we have no choice, legally speaking, but to pay it. So I propose that we do.
Yeah, this one has a little bit of history around it. There was a period of time when the invoices coming in were for a value that was way more than the service we were receiving, based on the fact that they didn't have the resources to put in the ground. That's been reviewed by the clerk and myself. We have now reached a point where the value of the invoicing is correct for the services we actually delivered. Okay, services we actually received, not delivered.
Okay, so I propose that we pay. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconder.
And a vote? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Date of next meeting, the date of next meeting of the Town Council is Wednesday, the 8th of May at 7:30.
Mr. Chairman, could I at that point ask you and ask council whether, in light of this evening's proceedings, we might start council meetings at 7 o'clock?
I think this evening was somewhat exceptional. We had 3 groups that came in to give us quite significant time-wise updates. So we had CANS, we had the youth centre, and yeah, so they took a considerable chunk of time up. So it was an extremely busy agenda. It wouldn't normally run on this late, and I do apologise. We also had a large number of residents in, well, largish number of residents in as well. Okay. Okay, so item 18, exclusion of the public and press under the Public Bodies Admissions to Meeting Act 1960. Members of the public and press are required to leave the meeting at items 19 and 20 due to the items being confidential matters, contractual staffing costs, confidential staffing matters and contractual obligations. Recommendation that councillors agree to exclude the public and press. Can I have a proposer? Pick one. And a seconder? Pick one. All in favour? Okay, thank you.